The silly moments, the proud moments, even the hard moments. They're why Wellmark Blue Cross and Blue Shield is committed to making healthcare better, more affordable, with more choices for care, and peace of mind through it all. Because Blue is here for you.
Welcome to the Made in Iowa podcast, presented by Wellmark Blue Cross and Blue Shield. I'm your host, Lisa Fox. In the studio, I have got, it was a surprise to me how interesting testing, adjusting, and balancing can be. I have Erin Rollenhagen and Jim Hall, who talk about technology and how it impacts the air you breathe every day. I hope you find it as interesting as I did. Back in the studio, I have got Erin Rollenhagen with People Friendly Tech and one of her most famous clients, Jim Hall, with systems management and balancing. I always want to put balancing first.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Jim and Erin, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
You introduced me to a segment of the economy, a part of the construction world that I had no idea existed. And it's testing and balancing.
Yep. Testing, adjusting, and balancing. Yep.
And this comes after. So imagine a huge, beautiful building is built and they've got all of the HVAC and ductwork in the building. Your role is to come in and make sure that it functions the way it was designed.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So approve design intent and make sure everybody's going to be comfortable.
And the thing that makes me most uncomfortable about this conversation is this industry's been around since the 70s.
Yep. Before. Yeah. It's been
Even
around
before
a long
that.
time. Yep.
So people have actually cared about how that air flows
Right.
through the building for a long time.
Exactly.
And I want to go back to the impetus of the company because I happen to know the current owner of one of the companies involved.
Right.
And so the owners of Dahl
Yes.
and your predecessor company,
Yes.
which was called,
It was still called systems management and balancing.
okay, so the owner of Systems Balancing and Management.
Yep.
Okay. And the third party was?
Was Bob Flanagan, who has worked as a design professional, a consulting engineer in the industry.
And these three guys got together. And what was the problem that existed that they were looking to solve?
So Einar Dahl, Dean Jukum, and Bob Flanagan decided that they needed somebody to be a third-party testing company to test HVAC systems and make sure that they're functioning correctly and be an independent party of the installation company. So the installation companies are going to do their own testing. Now we're going to do the testing as a third party. And they even had the foresight at the time to say, we will also one day be able to manage these systems from our computer. And that was back in 1967 that they're
We didn't have computers.
No, of how they're looking at that. So therefore that the name systems management and balancing came in. They're going to manage the systems and balance the systems. So they started in that fashion back in 67. Einar had his sheet metal company, stayed on with that. Bob Flanagan stayed on as a consultant. And then the next thing you know, they said, Dean, just take it over. So, and then.
And that you bought the company then from Dean?
I bought the company from Dean.
In what
yes.
year?
God, that was what, 2001.
Okay. And what did you see in the company that you thought there's potential here? I want a part of this.
A lot of it was, one, the intrigue of learning how to make systems work. And being in the industry, I've been in the industry since I got out of college.
Okay.
And I was a mechanical contractor, so I was exposed to that to a point. And then I sold equipment for probably 15 plus years. So being able to have all these components together and make them all work and see them work was really, really interesting to me. And then the people were really, really good to looking at it coming in. So it just became a great opportunity at the time. And I thought it was something that we can grow, and
here you are.
yeah.
Talk about the growth since you bought the company.
When I bought the company, we had 6 technicians, 3 office people. Today we are, I believe, up to 14 technicians and 8 office staff. We just opened an office in Coralville, Iowa last week, basically got our space set up and did that type of thing. So, yeah, we're just having fun and things are coming together really well. And we have a great team to work with.
The work you do is very technical.
Very technical, yes.
And there is no track in college that you can take to do what you're doing. The community colleges aren't doing it because it is such a niche.
Right.
How do you find the right people and how do you train them?
That is the biggest challenge, is finding the right people. And we've been lucky a lot lately of being able to find people who like working with their hands more than sitting at a desk.
Yeah.
So we've even gotten to the point now we've been fortunate to get some mechanical engineers from University of Iowa, Iowa State, who did not want a desk job, who wanted to work in the field and wanted to see how things work and do it that way. So we've gotten lucky with that. The challenge from that point is taking the knowledge that they've gained through academia and turning it into field knowledge. So we have the other side of guys who love to work on cars, love to use their hands. And we take those guys and get them the technical side to match with their skill set of being able to work in the field. So between the two, we do some training at our office. We built an office that has a commercial system in it that allows us to do all the training on water systems and air systems. And then working with another company down in Houston now has a complete facility that we'll send some guys to, but most of it is on-the-job training, pairing a younger tech up with a older tech, more experienced tech, and having them work together.
And selling something like a report, because at the end of the day, the product that you're providing your customers is an excruciatingly detailed report of how that system is functioning.
Correct. Yep. And that is a challenge.
Right. And so I want to kind of segue into Erin's role. You're collecting 32 million data points.
Over the past 10 years at least.
32 million data points, 6,000 reports you generated, and that's over the last 10 years. Enter Erin into the equation, and that was in 2015 you two met?
2015.
Erin, A, how did you two meet? And B, what opportunity did you see in working with Jim and his team?
We were actually introduced by my mentor and now business partner, Brendan Phelps.
That's right, yes.
Yeah. Who knew Jim through
EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. We're in the same forum group together.
And I guess Jim was talking to Brendan and heard a little bit about what you guys were thinking about doing and introduced us. And I still remember sitting in our office with Jim the first time we ever met and going over and learning about your business because it was new to me as well. I also didn't know about the business, and learning what you did and just being really, really struck with the volume of data and the importance of the accuracy of that data that you were working with, and what a huge opportunity it was to use technology to let your people focus on all of the incredible knowledge they have about the technical aspects of the work instead of focusing on copying data from one cell to another.
Right, exactly.
Because prior to Erin, explain what it looked like then.
Not good. It did look not good. It was Word, a little bit of Excel, but mostly Word that we're generating anywhere from a 5-page report to a 500-page report of handwritten field data into a Word document, basically.
So Erin, go through your due diligence process when you first started meeting, because I would assume you met with the techs and every piece and part of the company to analyze how you can better automate it?
One of the most fascinating things to me working with Jim and your company has been the similarities between engineer brain and computer programmer brain. and there's differences as well.
Right.
But one benefit we had is that, Jim having that engineering background, thought about things in a logical way already, thought about how can you standardize? How can you make this happen the same way every time? How can we create that consistency? And so we were on the same page with that goal. And I think the other thing that we caught in talking to you and the other staff members that we spoke to is that there's this whole body of knowledge that your team members develop that is all about these machines and how they work and what can go wrong with them. And if you see this symptom, this is what it means, and all of that incredible knowledge. But in order for that to do anyone any good at all, it has to make it into this incredibly detailed report in a consistent format that the recipient can make sense of. And so, our focus on that was really to try to take the headache out of tracking that data and reporting on that data so that each number only has to be entered once.
Wow.
We can have safety checks in place so the calculations are happening automatically. When there's summary data, you're not having to copy it from one place to another. And also creating some flexibility because you guys have so much knowledge that you don't do it the same way every time. There are nuances.
Right. And that's what's the hardest part I think we struggled with was not every HVAC system is the same. There are different caveats, different things. And then to make things even more challenging, new technology comes out and says, oh, we're not going to do it this way now. We're going to do variable refrigerant and have all these.
And Jim, how about
coatings
adding architects to the...
Well, then we add the architects who want to
it's all
make
pretty.
it all look pretty. And sometimes it's nice. Ductwork is now a good thing to look at where it used to be hidden everywhere.
And how nice to have a drop ceiling hiding all of the stuff that makes it work, right?
Exactly. So, yeah, but with all of those different caveats, it's one job is not the same as the next job.
Never the same.
And architects, engineers, and everybody love to do things in a new and improved fashion, hopefully more efficient, more cost effective. And it's not always using the same forms for us. So Erin's people, they did a great job allowing us to even self-customize within a standardized format.
One of the things I noted before we turned the mics on was at the end of the day, if it's not working properly, there's typically somebody at fault.
Right.
And so you might be pointing a finger at the person that hired you to say, it's there, right? That's a hard balance and a hard place to be. Right. How do you handle that? Probably just with data, right?
A lot with data, and sometimes the data and the report that we produce can show what's going on enough to where we don't have to be that person pointing a finger. And probably the biggest piece of it is we always look at it as we're part of a project team and we're here to support the team and not point fingers.
Right.
We're here to help find resolution. And because sometimes, we got to step back and look and say, do we need to point the finger at ourselves? Did we test it right? Is our data correct? So we're always very careful because it might be our fault. It
could be us.
Could be us. So, hey, let's handle it with kid gloves and do that. But that's one thing that we feel very comfortable these days with, and with people friendly and what they do for us, allowing us to produce this in a good, consistent manner that is also very accurate and very efficient for us to use. So
I'd like to spend a minute or two talking about the end customer for you and how that's evolved over the years. You talked about the founders, the people that founded the company. It was a novelty back then.
Right.
It wasn't necessarily something that you do every time. And then it went to those companies that were really doing the right thing,
Right.
that wanted a product that delivered
Right.
the right way.
Right.
But more and more, you said, the end customer is evolving to that owner.
Right. Right.
Talk about that evolution and why you think that's happening.
I think a lot of it gets predicated, one, by we focus a lot on testing, adjusting, and balancing. And over the past 10 to 15 years, commissioning now has become a big facet.
And explain what that is. What is commissioning?
So the commissioning goes, I'll say, a detail or a step further in the fact that they are making sure the system is functioning correctly, not just the fact that we took some data points and said, hey, yes, it can do it. Now it goes to the point of how is it getting done? How is the system being controlled? Simplest aspect, if you turn a thermostat and say, I want cooling, am I getting cold air?
Perfect.
And that's the simplicity of commissioning, but it gets very detailed in a complex
And I want
commercial
to
system.
talk through that process really quickly. The ductwork and the controls all
Right.
get put in.
Right,
The building is up and running,
right,
and you come in after the fact.
yep,
Talk about when that report is done, and you're handing that back to the HVAC company.
yep. And he'll submit it through the process, who will get it to the architect, engineer, and owner.
Okay.
Yep,
And you don't perform the adjustments.
we'll adjust, but we will not remediate or repair. If we have all the right things installed on the site, we have enough there to do our job.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And I asked about the territory that you cover
Right.
and how difficult it is for you to really move outside the Midwest.
Right.
Talk about the technology that you're taking with you into the building.
Yeah. We have a van full of instrumentation to measure airflows, water flows, take static pressures, get to the point also where we'll even pressurize and test ductwork for leakage to make sure it's all leak-free as best as can be, and that type of thing. So we have a lot of instrumentation that most people will recognize if they've been on a construction site, but most people don't know how to use. If they see what we call the flow hood, what used to be a big red flow hood, and they're holding it up to the outlet measuring airflow. We still get questioned a lot by owners when they see us using it, and people are in there worrying, what are you doing? What is that thing?
Okay.
But knowing how to use that instrumentation, when to apply the right instrument for the right type of measurement, we get into that quite a bit. So, and that makes it difficult to travel on the planes and do that kind of work.
Right.
So,
What percentage of buildings are tested, adjusted, and balanced?
you know, it goes back to your owner statement earlier that owners who have a lot of buildings, universities, K through 12, hospitals, clinics, and they have a lot of buildings, every one of their buildings will have tab performed on their buildings.
Okay.
They see the value of that. They go through it. They understand it. There are some smaller buildings. We'll call them retail strip centers and that kind of thing. You might be able to get away without tab and those type of things. If they have a kitchen in that facility, typically they will have tab.
Okay.
But you get into anything outside a strip center, majority of those buildings now have tab performed.
Okay.
It's not code mandated yet. Chunks of it are code mandated for certain facilities, like in a kitchen. Commissioning is getting to the point where it's code mandated. So,
Okay, good.
but that's what we find. Owners who have a lot of buildings want the commissioning done, or the test and balance and commissioning done. Single owner of a building might not understand all the value of it until after he's been in his building.
And I think you might be one of very few industries that benefited from COVID.
Yes.
Talk about how your work became uber important during that time.
During that time, it was once people found out the infection and how contagious it could be, when they went to the hospital or a clinic, they had to be put in a room that could not allow those germs to get outside that room and spread. And they call them a negative isolation room or an isolation room. And that's where we had to come in and start converting rooms with the mechanical contractor and say, we need more negative isolation rooms to house COVID patients.
Wow.
And we would then set the proper airflows, the room pressures up to make sure that those rooms were negative.
Wow.
So it really became a big, important piece of that side.
Everything changes. Lucky for you, Erin. Introduce AI to the picture within the last couple of years. How do you see the work that you've done with Jim being complemented by artificial intelligence?
I think what's really important about AI right now, and we see this for Jim, but other clients as well, that are their business is really a business of expertise. AI can help take away some of the things that people don't really love doing anyway.
Right.
Yes.
So that they can focus on the things that are really high value human expertise ways of serving that customer. So, an example would be, one possible application would be to have AI help look for common gotchas that might exist within a report, within a system, build up an understanding of those and be able to suggest that to the human engineers that are then reviewing that report and checking it out before it makes it to the customer. So it's not replacing the human expertise, but it's making that human expertise more efficient when you're reviewing thousands of data points.
Yeah. So it can help us look for consistencies, but as well as we're thinking, and we've luckily have met with People Friendly about using AI and seeing where it's going to be able to look at those and pull them out for us. Then we can evaluate what it pulled out.
All right. You've owned this company for a minute, and we have no lack of gray hair. You don't see mine as much as yours. Great leaders are consistently and constantly thinking about their transition plan.
Right.
And you are not an exception to that.
Right.
Talk about how you are looking at the future and your own leadership within the organization and what the next 5 to 10 years looks like for you.
So we started transition and I'm phasing out, and still learning a lot about it. But we're fortunate that we've got one gentleman who's been with the company for a while that is transitioned in and learning how to do things business-wise, function-wise. It's the things that you don't know technically, no issues. It's all the other pieces of running a business, the HR pieces. In a small business, we have 25, 26 employees now. And HR pieces, how to manage people, and then also get into that side of the financials and coupling all of that. So getting people educated in that and transitioning those pieces as well as processes of how do we do what we do,
Right.
but still staying flexible to say we can be more efficient. What can people bring to the table to do it? So,
And I would imagine your technology improves consistently.
Yes.
And there's a certain amount of capital
yes,
that you need to invest
Yes.
to keep up with that technology.
Yep.
And so transferring that decision-making ability
Right.
to that next generation
Right.
doesn't happen overnight.
No. What are the priorities? How do you work with it? It is funny. People Friendly is one of our priorities because everybody now has seen what technology can do for our company. And the investment that we make into that each year of whether it's just simple improvements or adjustments to how we're going to react to new technology. Requests from our employees is a huge thing. They'll be working through it, going through it. They'll look at it and go, hey, why don't we do this? This would be much more efficient and work much better. So making those kind of decisions of what do I do, when do I do it, because the instrumentation, we're lucky. There's a couple manufacturers who have gone all in, and that's all they're going to manufacture, and they keep improving what they're doing. So the investment into doing that and turning over your equipment and doing that kind of thing becomes a challenge. So working through all that, and I think one of the biggest pieces I've learned is the human dynamic of the HR side. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
And how to get everybody on the same page, going in the same direction, and also getting the right people in the right places, doing the right things, and understanding their team commitment to what they can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing that you said off air stuck with me, and you said it as it pertains to the work that you've been doing with Erin and her team. Mm-hmm. You said sometimes you just have to step back and trust.
Right.
How hard has that been for you?
Really hard. You get older, you get set in your ways. You think you know how to do a lot of things. And one thing I've always tried to do is say, I'm going to learn from everybody every day.
Yep.
And that has helped a ton. But at the same standpoint, making the adjustment to the younger generation. And yes, I have a 22-year-old and a 24-year-old. And I always got to step back and say, those are the people we're hiring now and we're working with. And I cannot treat them as they're my children.
Right.
I've got to listen to what they've learned and what they can bring to the table. And it's kind of funny now with my children, where they are and what they're doing. I now try to do that with them also. So it's a very challenging thing to do. But then at the same standpoint, once you get on board, it's a very rewarding thing. All of a sudden you realize how much knowledge you just grew. Right. And just even embracing AI. My first thing, like I mentioned earlier, was I want to prove them wrong. I can wrong answer again, and now learning to embrace it. Exactly. It's been great because now I can start seeing what it can do for us as a company. So
wow. You have to, right?
Right. And it's embracing today's generation and not saying they're doing things wrong or anything. They're doing it different. Now, how do we take the way they want to approach it and incorporate it into what we want to do and how we want to do things?
Erin, what excites you the most about Jim and his company and their future?
I think the first thing is the people. One of the things that I noticed right away when I started working with Jim was just what a fantastic person he is to work with. And
thank you.
Everybody on his team is that way as well. I think, that culture really is something that he infused into the entire organization. So anytime that we can have that really high trust, collaborative relationship with a client, we know we're going to have a good time building their software. Our team's going to be really invested in making sure that they have the best experience. And that's when we end up having just a really spectacular outcome.
I love this because you guys have been together now for more than 10 years.
Yeah.
And you keep evolving. And that can only happen when you've got that trust and the investment.
Right. The trust and the investment. And I think Erin said probably one of the best words we try to live by, and that's a great culture. And when you have that culture, you develop the people and the people help develop together and build something together. And the nice part is I feel when we call people friendly, they have a phenomenal culture, because I know if I get an email back or a phone call back from anybody in that company, it's the same mentality of we're going to take care of you. And that's the mentality we try to take and put forth to our customers. And, and I've also learned the more I trust our employees, the better they are at learning to take care of the customers and do what we do.
if you can't give them that ownership,
Right.
it's wasted. Yeah. So, well, Erin, thank you again for introducing me to such an amazing company. Jim, good luck with your transition.
Thank you.
And if you've got anything to report, I encourage you to come back in as that next phase happens for you.
Yes.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
And thank you, Erin.
Thank you for tuning in to Made in Iowa. Subscribe, like, and share wherever you listen. Catch episodes weekly from the Iowa Everywhere studio on the BPC streaming network.